The soft chime of the evening cycle filled Ilara's room. A gentle cascade of notes that always reminded her of tiny, crystalline bells. Outside her viewport, the endless tapestry of stars glittered. A familiar comfort in the vast, silent ocean of space. Wanderang. Her home for all of her 9 years hummed around her, a constant low thrum that was as much a part of her as her own heartbeat. Ilara stretched, a languid arch of her small body, and padded towards her mother, Anya, who sat by the viewport, gazing out at the starfield. Anya's silhouette was framed by the distant nebulae, her dark hair catching the faint, cool light. "Time for your sleep, Weaver, my little star petal," Anya said, her voice a warm melodic whisper that always smoothed the edges of Ilara's day. She turned, a soft smile gracing her lips, and held out a small, iridescent device. It was smooth to the touch, cool plastic that pulsed with a faint internal light. Ilara settled onto her bunk, a nest of soft bioluminescent blankets that glowed with a calming cerulean hue. Anya carefully placed the sleepweaver's delicate pads against Ilara's temples. The sensation was never invasive, just a faint tingle, like dew on a spiderweb. "Tonight's journey?" Ilara asked, her eyes already growing heavy. The sleepweaver wasn't just for sleep. It was a gentle guide, weaving dreams from the ship's vast data archives, showing her distant galaxies, ancient Earth cities, or the intricate workings of Wanderer itself. Sometimes, it simply crafted a beautiful quiet landscape for her mind to wander through. Anya adjusted a setting on her wristcom. "Tonight, we'll explore the cosmic echoes," she murmured, her gaze returning to the stars. "Do you remember what those are?" Ilara nodded slowly, her eyelids fluttering. "The whispers from before," she said, her voice a sleepy mumble. "From the very, very beginning, when Windy Wanderer first left home." "Precisely," Anya said, stroking Ilara's hair. "Every long-haul vessel, especially one as ancient and grand as ours, carries echoes, signals, data fragments, stories whispered across light years. Sometimes, they are messages from the past. Sometimes, they are simply the faint hum of a dying star, traveling across unimaginable distances. The Wanderer listens. She always listens." Wanderang was indeed ancient. Her hull, a mosaic of reinforced alloys and energy shields, had glided through the void for over 3 centuries. Ilara often imagined the ship as a wise, old giant, carrying generations of humanity towards a new dawn, a new home. No one alive had ever seen Earth, the legendary blue marble, except through the sleepweaver's carefully curated historical simulations. Their destination, a promised exoplanet dubbed Nova Terra, was still decades away, a shimmering promise in the vast unknown. "Tonight," Anya continued, her voice weaving into the onset of sleep, "the sleepweaver will let you feel some of those echoes. Not just see them, but feel their journey. Imagine the light from a star, traveling for hundreds of thousands of years, finally reaching Guy the Wanderer's sensors. That light carries memories, little pieces of the universe's grand story." Ilara's mind began to drift, the sleepweaver gently nudging her consciousness into the dreamscape. She felt a lightness, a sensation of floating, not just in her bunk, but out beyond the ship itself. The stars around her cabin viewport seemed to expand, growing closer, brighter, until she was immersed in their light. She saw patterns, not just random specks, but intricate, glowing webs that stretched across infinity. They pulsed with soft colors, sapphire, emerald, amethyst, and as she watched, she felt a faint vibration, like the lingering chord of a forgotten song. This was an echo, she realized. A resonance. The sleepweaver guided her deeper. She was no longer Ilara in her bunk, but a mode of awareness, traveling alongside a beam of light. It was a long journey, she understood, feeling the passage of time not in minutes or hours, but in epochs. Galaxies swirled past, nebulae bloomed and faded, and the light, a tiny carrier of information, persisted. Then, the scene shifted. The endless void gave way to something structured. She was inside I Wanderer, but not the U Wanderer she knew. This was an earlier version, perhaps from its initial launch. The corridors were cleaner, the light brighter, the hum of the engines more vibrant, less seasoned. She saw people, faint and ghostly, moving with purpose. Their faces were indistinct, but their emotions resonated: excitement, hope, a touch of apprehension. They were the first generation, the pioneers. One image lingered: a woman, standing at a console, her face illuminated by a holographic display of swirling data. Her hands moved deftly, inputting commands. Her expression a mix of fierce concentration and profound determination. She looked tired, but her eyes held a spark, a dream that spanned centuries. This was an echo, not of light or sound, but of intent, of purpose. Elara felt a pang of connection, an understanding that transcended time. These were her ancestors, the ones who had dared to leave everything behind, to commit their descendants to a journey of unimaginable length. Their courage, their hope, was a powerful echo, reverberating through the ship's very structure. The dreamscape began to soften, the edges blurring, as the sleep weaver prepared her for deep sleep. But just as the images faded, something new flickered into her perception. It wasn't part of the guided dream, not a memory of ancient Earth, or Kai Wanderer's early days. It was a sound. A faint, almost imperceptible, yi ping. Then, another. And another. It was rhythmic, subtle, like a tiny heartbeat far away. A ping. Ping dao. Ping. Wadikinam. One shay. It wasn't the gentle hum of the ship. It wasn't the silence of space. It was something distinct, a pattern emerging from the background noise of the cosmos. The sleep weaver's usual calming frequencies seemed to falter for a moment, a barely noticeable stutter, like a skipping record. Elara felt a strange sense of alertness, even as sleep pulled at her. The pinging wasn't loud, but it resonated somewhere deep inside her, a curious vibration that felt both familiar and utterly alien. It was an echo, yes, but one that felt alive. Present. She tried to focus on it, to understand its rhythm, but the sleep weaver, as if correcting itself, smoothed out the dreamscape once more, drowning the faint pings in a wash of gentle cerulean light. Elara's consciousness drifted into true sleep, the mysterious rhythm fading into the depths of her unconscious mind. Elara woke with a start, not to the usual soft light of morning cycle, but to the deep, pervasive silence of the ship's very early hours. The cerulean glow of her blanket still illuminated the room, but the gentle hum of Keith Wanderer felt muted, distant. The sleep weaver had long since detached from her temples, resting silently on the bedside table. She lay still for a moment, listening. The pinging sound was gone. Had it been part of the dream? A trick of the sleep weaver? But it had felt so real. So unexpected. Unlike the carefully curated images and sensations. It had felt like an intrusion. A flicker of unease, light as a feather, stirred in her. She slipped out of bed, her bare feet making no sound on the cool recycled polymer floor. The ship was still in its deep slumber cycle, most of the habitat modules dimmed, the corridors hushed. Anya would be deep in her own sleep, her mother's sleep weaver likely guiding her through complex astronomical computations or historical data analysis. Anya was a deep space cartographer, constantly updating Pythe Wanderer's charts, searching for anomalies, guiding their path. Elara walked to her viewport. The stars outside were breathtaking as always. But tonight, they seemed to hold a secret. She pressed her nose against the cool plasteel, searching for something, anything, that might explain the faint pings. The vastness of space stretched before her, an intimidating, beautiful canvas. She closed her eyes, trying to recall the dream. The first generation, their hope, their determination. And then, the pinging. Was it an echo of their time? Or something else entirely? A thought struck her. The pinging had felt rhythmic. Like a signal. Wanderer listened, Anya had said. But what if it was listening to something you knew? Something it hadn't heard before? A wave of restless curiosity washed over her. She couldn't go back to sleep. Not with that question buzzing in her mind. Her small room suddenly felt too small. Too quiet. She needed to explore. Not a new galaxy, not a simulation, but the Wanderer itself. There were parts of the ship that were rarely visited, old sections that held forgotten stories. Her mother had told her tales of maintenance tunnels and dormant sectors, places that held the ship's oldest systems, its very bones. They were technically off-limits to children, but Elara knew the ship's schematics almost as well as the engineers. Her sleepweaver had shown her enough historical layouts for her to navigate even the most labyrinthine passages. She pulled on a light jumpsuit, the fabric soft and temperature-regulating, and slipped out of her room. The corridor was bathed in a low, emergency amber light, signaling the deep sleep cycle. Most habitation doors were sealed, their privacy fields active. The air was cool, recycled and pure, with a faint metallic tang. Elara moved silently, her bare feet echoing faintly on the polished floor. She passed the communal recreation dome, its vibrant holographic trees and simulated waterfall, now dark and still. She skirted the nutrient synthesis labs, where the ship's vital sustenance was grown and processed. All were quiet. Her destination was Sector Gamma 7, a rarely used storage and system diagnostics area, close to one of Wanderer's oldest primary sensor arrays. It was an area her mother occasionally visited for deep-level diagnostics, an area Elara had always been curious about. It wasn't dangerous, just neglected. She found the access panel, tucked away behind a service conduit. It was old, its metallic surface worn smooth by centuries of maintenance. She remembered a specific sequence from a dream simulation, a maintenance override code. Her fingers, guided by instinct and memory, danced across the keypad. A faint click, and the heavy door hissed open, revealing a darker, dustier passage beyond. The air inside Sector Gamma 7 was noticeably different, heavier, with a faint scent of ozone and ancient machinery. The emergency lights here were even dimmer, casting long, distorted shadows. Elara pulled a small, pen-sized glow stick from her jumpsuit pocket and activated it. Its soft light pierced the gloom, illuminating rows of stacked containers, dormant robotic arms, and cables thicker than her arms snaking across the ceiling. This section was a time capsule. The walls were unpolished, showing the bare metal of the ship's frame. Old control panels with physical buttons and worn-out levers lined some of the passages, relics from a bygone era of interface design. She ran her hand over a cold metal surface, feeling the faint vibrations of the ship's power conduits beneath. She moved deeper, following a path she remembered from the schematics towards the sensor array junction. The passage narrowed, the ceiling lowering, until she felt like she was truly inside the giant body of Kaith Wanderer. The ship's hum was louder here, a powerful, resonant vibration that she felt in her bones. And then, she heard it. Faint, but unmistakable. Ow ping. Pinged. Pinged it one. And me. It was coming from ahead, from the direction of the sensor array. It was the same rhythm. The same curious, insistent sound she had heard in her dream. It wasn't a trick of her mind. It was real. Her heart began to beat, a little faster, a mixture of trepidation and exhilarating excitement. What was it? Why hadn't the ship's main systems announced it? Why was it here? In this forgotten corner? She crept closer, her glow stick held out like a tiny beacon. The passage opened into a larger chamber, a cavern of dormant machinery. Great, curved plates lined the far wall. The internal face of one of Kaith Wanderer's colossal primary sensor dishes. Along the base of the wall, a series of ancient consoles glowed with faint, flickering lights, some of their screens displaying archaic data readouts. One console, however, was different. It was smaller, tucked away in a shadowed alcove, and its screen glowed with a vibrant emerald light. And from it, the yi pinging emanated. Elara approached it cautiously, her gaze fixed on the screen. It was an old-style display, blocky pixels forming simple shapes. On the screen, a series of green dots pulsed, each pulse accompanied by the soft EJ ping. They were arranged in a circular pattern, orbiting a central larger dot. And around this central dot, a faint, almost invisible spiral of light slowly expanded. It was a signal. A repeating pattern. She reached out a hesitant finger, touching the screen. The surface was cool, smooth. As her finger made contact, the yi pinging briefly intensified, then returned to its regular rhythm. The central dot on the screen seemed to brighten for a moment. Elara peered closer. The spiral wasn't just expanding, it was carrying tiny, almost imperceptible flickers of light, like dust motes caught in a breeze. As they reached the edge of the circle, they would vanish, only for new ones to emerge from the center. It looked like a message. But what kind of message? And from where? The ship's main navigation and communication arrays never displayed anything like this. This console was supposed to be dormant, a relic. Yet, it was receiving. She looked around the chamber, at the quiet, sleeping giants of machinery. No one else was here. No alarms had sounded. Just this rhythmic pinging. This emerald glow in the deep, silent heart of the Wanderer. Elara felt a thrill, a deep sense of wonder mixed with a touch of fear. She was witnessing something private, something unknown. A true cosmic echo perhaps, but one that felt far more immediate than the ancient whispers of light her mother had described. This felt new. She stayed there for a long time, watching the emerald dots pulse, listening to the rhythmic chi pinging. The spiral continued to expand, carrying its invisible dust motes of light. It was a language she didn't understand, a conversation happening in the dark, vast silence of space, intercepted by a forgotten console in a forgotten corner of her home. What was it saying? And who was sending it? The questions swirled in her mind, a new kind of echo, reverberating through her very being. The stars outside her viewport had always been a mystery, but now, a piece of that mystery had found its way inside the Wanderer, into her very hands. And it was just beginning to speak. The pulsating light on the forgotten console wasn't just a beacon. It was a rhythmic whisper against the vast silence Elara had grown accustomed to. Her fingers, usually deft with navigating star charts or repairing micro fissures in hull plating, hovered uncertainly over the dust-laden controls. The console, a relic from a previous owner, was an anomaly, a bulky, tactile anachronism amidst the Wanderer's otherwise streamlined, voice-activated systems. It hummed with an unfamiliar energy, a low thrum that vibrated through the deck plates and into her bones. "Speak, then," she murmured, her voice a fragile counterpoint to the cosmic conversation. She leaned closer, her breath misting the ancient display, revealing a lattice of faint scratches and smudges. The signal itself was a complex interplay of light and shadow, not a sound, but a visual rhythm. It pulsed, flared, and dimmed in intricate sequences, a dance of light that seemed to tell a story in a tongue made of pure mathematics and elegant geometry. Elara had always been good with patterns. Her life as a solitary scavenger and long-haul courier often demanded an intuitive understanding of the cosmos, the flow of nebulae, the predictable drift of asteroid fields, the subtle shimmer of a distant wormhole opening. This, however, was different. It was deliberate, intelligent. She brushed away years of accumulated dust from a series of unlabeled worn buttons. Some were smooth from countless presses, others stiff and resistant. She tried the most obvious, a large, glowing button labeled simply, "Analyze." It clicked with a satisfying thunk, and the console's main screen, a dull gray before, flickered to life with a jolt. Lines of incomprehensible data scrolled furiously, a cascade of unfamiliar symbols and glyphs chasing each other across the retro-green display. "Too much, too fast," she muttered, adjusting a coarse-grained dial. The scrolling slowed, allowing her to glimpse fragments. There were no recognizable alphabets, no numerals she understood. But there were shapes, fractals, spirals, tessellations that shifted and reformed with hypnotic grace. It was like watching a cosmic kaleidoscope, each turn revealing a new layer of complexity, a deeper fractal iteration. Her mind raced, sifting through distant memories of her academy days, courses on xenolinguistics she dismissed as irrelevant theory. First contact protocols. Universal constants. Prime numbers. Pity. These were the building blocks, the shared language of any intelligent species, regardless of their biology or planet of origin. Could the signal be encoding something fundamental? She remembered an old trick from a crusty professor, a heuristic approach for decoding unknown signals. Look for repetition, for symmetry, for anything that broke the apparent chaos with deliberate order. She focused on the rhythm of the light pulses. Slow. Fast. Pause. Slow, fast. It was like a breath, a heartbeat. Elara opened the Wanderer's internal comms, a direct link to the ship's primary AI, affectionately nicknamed Skipper. Skipper, can you patch into this console? I needed real-time spectrum analysis, pattern recognition, and frequency modulation breakdown. A calm, synthesized voice responded, "Negative, Elara. That console operates on an isolated, pre-neural network architecture. It's entirely self-contained, not integrated with the Wanderer's current systems. It's ancient." "Ancient but active," Elara countered, a thrill of discovery running through her veins. "Can you at least tell me its power source then? And its origin point?" "Power source appears to be a repurposed microfusion cell, running on a closed-loop system," Skipper reported. "Its energy signature is remarkably stable. As for origin, the console itself predates the Wanderer's current schematics by at least 2 centuries. It seems to have been retrofitted by a previous owner, perhaps scavenged from a much older vessel." "A previous owner?" Elara frowned. The Wandering had passed through many hands. A utilitarian freighter, it was more workhorse than luxury cruiser, its history etched into every scuff mark and patched hull plate. Who among its past captains would have installed such a device? And why? Ignoring Skipper for a moment, Elara began experimenting with the console's dials. One was labeled modulation, another filter, and a third, curiously, harmonics. She turned the harmonics dial first. The complex light sequence on the screen simplified slightly, the chaotic beauty reducing to a more fundamental pattern. It was like peeling back layers of an onion, each turn revealing a simpler, more foundational truth. What she saw next made her gasp. A series of bright, distinct flashes, followed by pauses. ... Morse code. But not in sound, in light. And not in Earth languages but in pure, unadulterated mathematical symbols. She scribbled furiously on a datapad, translating the light pulses into a sequence of geometric shapes. A perfect circle, an equilateral triangle, a square, a pentagon, a hexagon. Then, after a pause, the sequence repeated, slightly altered. The numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The fundamental building blocks of geometry, the very language of the cosmos. It was a greeting, a mathematical handshake. "Skipper, reroute all external sensor arrays to this console's frequency," Elara commanded, her voice tight with excitement. "I need a triangulated origin point for this signal. And I need it now." "Affirmative, Elara. Rerouting. Stand by for data. Origin point established. Calculating distance and trajectory." There was a brief silence, then Skipper's voice, a fraction less calm. "Elara, the signal is originating from outside charted space, beyond the Perseus arm, approximately 75,000 light-years from our current position." Elara felt a cold knot tighten in her stomach. 75,000 light-years. That was an unimaginable distance. A journey that would take countless lifetimes, even with the most advanced hyperdrive technology. This wasn't a nearby neighbor sending a casual hello. This was a voice from another galaxy, or at least another garm of their own vast galaxy. So far removed it might as well be another universe. 75,000 light-years, she whispered, the wonder momentarily eclipsed by the sheer impossibility of it. "How is that even possible? The signal, strength. It's so clear." "Anomalous energy signature," Skipper confirmed. "The signal propagation appears to be utilizing an unknown method, bypassing conventional light speed limitations. It's not simply broadcasting, it's projecting." Elara stared at the console, at the geometric pulses that continued their silent conversation. A projected signal. Like a focused beam of light, somehow traversing the vast emptiness with little degradation. This wasn't just a message. It was a testament to technology beyond anything humanity had ever conceived. The geometric sequence repeated, then shifted. This time, after the fundamental shapes, a new pattern emerged. A series of interconnected nodes, forming intricate, three-dimensional structures. They rotated, expanded, and contracted, revealing complex internal mechanisms. It looked like schematics, blueprints. Her fingers flew across the console, adjusting the filter dial. The schematics sharpened, resolving into greater detail. They weren't just abstract shapes, they were diagrams of something impossibly complex. A starship? A colossal station? A weapon? It was hard to tell. But the scale was immense, dwarfing even the largest vessels Elara had ever encountered in port. One particular diagram caught her eye. It depicted a series of concentric rings, spiraling inwards, each ring dotted with what looked like miniature suns. And at the very heart, a single, pulsating orb, radiating energy. It was a depiction of a star system. A very specific star system. And the next sequence of geometric symbols, Elara realized with a jolt, was a set of coordinates. Not local coordinates, but galactic. A map, Badai. "Skipper," she breathed, her voice barely a whisper. "Can you cross-reference these coordinates with known stellar cartography databases? All databases. Ancient. Forgotten. Everything. Processing. Cross-referencing. No match found in standard databases," Skipper reported. "Attempting cross-reference with restricted and speculative catalogs. Match found, Elara. A single unconfirmed entry. Catalogued as the celestial anomaly. A theoretical construct. Location: the outer rim of the Sagittarius dwarf spheroidal galaxy, a satellite galaxy of the Milky Way. The Sagittarius dwarf spheroidal. A galaxy within a galaxy. Known to be in a slow, inevitable collision course with their own Milky Way, its stars tearing away and merging over billions of years. A place so distant, so far beyond the frontiers of explored space, it was effectively a myth. Elara felt a tremor of fear, but it was quickly overshadowed by a potent surge of exhilaration. This wasn't just a message from afar. It was an invitation. A map to a place no human had ever been. A star system hidden within a satellite galaxy, theorized but never confirmed. The geometry wasn't just a greeting. It was a wayfinding chart, a key to a destination of impossible wonder. She spent the next several hours glued to the console, her mind a maelstrom of theories and possibilities. She tried to respond, searching for a transmit button, but found none. This console was a receiver, a listener, perhaps a recorder. Not a broadcaster. It was a one-way street, at least for now. The signal continued, endlessly looping through its geometric greetings, its complex schematics, and the tantalizing coordinates. Sometimes new sequences would appear, brief flashes of what looked like organic structures, twisting strands of something akin to DNA, or perhaps intricate neural networks. Was it describing itself? Its creators? The very fabric of life in its home galaxy? As the hours stretched into what felt like days, Elara began to feel an ache in her shoulders, a burning behind her eyes, but she couldn't tear herself away. The silence of space, once her comfort, now felt like an empty void, waiting to be filled by this alien conversation. She was no longer just a solitary wanderer. She was a bridge, a conduit to the unknown. The implications were staggering. If this signal was from a civilization in the Sagittarius dwarf spheroidal, they were not only incredibly advanced, but also incredibly patient. The signal had been broadcasting for an indeterminate amount of time, sending its silent invitation across millions of light years, waiting for someone, anyone, to listen. She thought about her own life, her reasons for embracing the solitude of deep space. A quiet retreat from the bustling, overcrowded core worlds, from the endless politics and resource wars. She'd sought peace, a sense of belonging among the stars. But now, the stars had sent her a message, a challenge, a call to a different kind of belonging. Could she ignore it? The thought was fleeting. The possibility of discovery, of being the first human to ever interact with such a profound message, was an irresistible current pulling her forward. But what would it mean to pursue it? To chase a signal across such an impossible distance? Die Wanderung was sturdy, reliable, but it was a freighter, not an exploration vessel. Its hyperdrive was efficient, but not capable of the kind of speeds needed to traverse galactic arms in any reasonable time frame. A journey to the Sagittarius dwarf spheroidal would require technological advancements she didn't possess, resources she didn't have, and a level of commitment that would consume the rest of her life, and perhaps many more. Yet, the coordinates shimmered on the screen, a silent promise. And the schematics, she realized, were growing clearer. They weren't just structures, they were vehicles. And one particular diagram, a small elegant craft with an unusual drive system, seemed to be depicted with particular emphasis. A propulsion system that resembled the concentric rings of the star system itself, drawing energy from a central core. Was it a hint? A guide to building something that Yukoi make the journey? Elara felt a strange warmth spread through her chest. This wasn't just an invitation. It was a gift. A guide. A breadcrumb trail laid across the void, leading to a new frontier. She pulled up the Wanderer System Diagnostics. Fuel cells at 78%, Dodgewa. Life support nominal. Hyperdrive core stable. Standard trajectory for her next delivery run. The bustling orbital markets of Xylos Prime, a mere 3 weeks away. A routine job, a comfortable routine. But comfort suddenly felt like a cage. The pull of the unknown, the silent, mathematical song from beyond, was a siren call she couldn't ignore. Xylos Prime could wait. The mysteries of the Sagittarius dwarf spheroidal, however, could not. She laid out the galactic map on the Wanderer's main console, overlaying the coordinates she'd deciphered. A tiny, almost invisible pinpoint of light nestled among the swirling dust and gas of the dwarf galaxy. A destination that was more dream than reality. Her fingers trembled as she input the new trajectory. It wasn't a direct jump. That was impossible. It was a series of calculations, a zigzagging path through uncharted space, using nebulae for cover, rogue planets for gravity assists, and the faint, almost imperceptible guidance of the alien signal itself. It would take years, perhaps decades, just to reach the edge of the dwarf galaxy. "Skipper," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. "Cancel all standing contracts. Plot a new course, maximum endurance. Destination, the celestial anomaly. Prepare for extended deep space operations." A moment of silence, then Skipper's calm voice, devoid of judgment. "Acknowledged, Elara. New trajectory initiated. Estimated time to destination, accounting for current drive limitations and fuel reserves. 87.3 years. Elara leaned back in her chair, a wry smile touching her lips. 87 years. She wasn't even that old yet. It was a journey that would span generations if she had any. But she didn't. She was just Elara, the wanderer, and now, the listener. She glanced at the forgotten console, still pulsing with its silent geometric message. The schematics had shifted again, now showing what looked like a language matrix, a universal translator in its nascent stages, built from the same elegant mathematics. It was teaching her how to understand it, step by painstaking step. This wasn't just a trip. It was a pilgrimage. A voyage into the heart of a cosmic mystery, guided by a message from beings whose existence challenged everything humanity thought it knew about the universe. She didn't know what she would find at the end of that journey, or even if she would live to see it. But she knew one thing for certain. She couldn't turn back. The stars had finally spoken, and Elara had answered. The vast, silent dark no longer felt empty. It felt full, brimming with possibility, with a promise of connection. And her adventure had just truly begun. Her adventure had just truly begun. The Stardust Dreamer, a vessel woven from dreams and the most advanced human ingenuity, hummed softly around Elara. Its polished metallic hull, designed to reflect cosmic radiation and absorb nebular starlight, now sliced through the deep interstellar void. Inside, Elara felt a profound sense of quiet. The usual symphony of Earth, the distant traffic, the rustle of leaves, the murmur of voices, was replaced by the low thrum of the ship's engines, the soft hiss of recycled air, and the gentle whisper of Aura, the ship's sentient eye. Trajectory stable, Elara, Aura's voice, a calm melodic contralto, flowed from the ship's integrated speakers, appearing also as shimmering glyphs on the holographic console before her. Hyperspace jump sequence initiated. Estimated arrival at first waypoint, 3.7 solar cycles. Elara nodded, gazing out at the stardusted window. The stars, once distant pinpricks, had elongated into shimmering streaks of light, painting the void with impossible speed. This was hyperspace, a realm where space-time folded, allowing faster-than-light travel, yet still a vast, patient journey. She pressed a hand against the cool durasteel, feeling the vibrations of the ship's heart. "Thank you, Aura. Maintain course, and keep all long-range sensors active. I want to know if anything at all, deviates from predicted stellar patterns." "Acknowledged," Aura replied. "I am always vigilant." In the solitude of the Stardust Dreamer, Elara settled into a new rhythm. Her days were a ballet of data analysis, ship diagnostics, and quiet contemplation. She spent hours in the ship's observation deck, a panoramic dome offering an unobstructed view of the cosmic tapestry. Here, she meditated, letting the grandeur of the universe wash over her, a balm to the subtle anxieties that sometimes surfaced. What if the message was a mistake? What if it led to nothing? But then the memory of the signal, so clear, so purposeful, would resurface, a gentle current pulling her onward. The message itself was no simple set of coordinates. It was a complex data stream, initially decoded into a series of intricate mathematical equations and astronomical markers. But as the Stardust Dreamer journeyed deeper into the uncharted black, the signal began to evolve. It subtly influenced Aura's navigation, not forcefully overriding, but wise suggesting minute course corrections, nudging the ship along a path that felt less like a direct line and more like a carefully traced pattern through the stars. One cycle, as Elara was reviewing stellar cartography, Aura chimed. "Anomaly detected, Elara, within designated flight corridor. A nebula, previously uncatalogued, exhibiting unusual spectral signatures." Elara zoomed in on the holographic map. "A nebula. That's unexpected. Is it a hazard?" "Uncertain. Its energy readings are stable but unique. It appears to be breathing, if such a term can be applied to a celestial body. The alien signal, however, appears to be guiding us directly towards its heart." Elara felt a thrill of anticipation. This was it. The first deviation from the predictable. She adjusted her flight suit, a lightweight, flexible garment that adapted to temperature and pressure changes, and moved to the command chair. "Prepare to exit hyperspace? Approach with caution. Let's call it the Whispering Veil." The Stardust Dreamer shimmered, then burst from hyperspace in a flash of brilliant light, leaving the streaked stars behind. Before them lay a spectacle that defied earthly description. The Whispering Veil was not merely a cloud of gas and dust. It pulsed with an ethereal luminescence, shifting through hues of deep violet, electric blue, and shimmering emerald. Within its depths, tendrils of light danced, coalescing into intricate, fleeting patterns that resembled ancient script or perhaps the silent ballet of cosmic dancers. It was vast, dwarfing entire star systems, yet it felt alive, imbued with a gentle, hypnotic energy. "Magnificent," Elara breathed, her voice barely a whisper. The sheer beauty of it brought tears to her eyes. This was why she traveled, why she risked everything. For moments of pure, unadulterated wonder. Aura's sensors painted a complex picture. Gravitational fluctuations detected within the veil. Energy fields are unusually coherent, almost structured. It seems deliberate. The alien signal has intensified, Elara. It's no longer just a guide, it feels like an invitation. An invitation to what? Elara wondered aloud. "Prepare to enter. Engage stealth protocols, minimal energy output. I want to see this place without disturbing it." As the Stardust Dreamer glided into the nebula, the outside world transformed. The ship's advanced environmental controls filtered the strange energies, but Elara could still feel in the veil's presence. A subtle hum resonated through the hull. A deep, resonant vibration that seemed to bypass her ears and settle directly into her bones. The light outside was a living canvas, swirling and folding in on itself, sometimes revealing pockets of absolute darkness, sometimes flaring with blinding, silent brilliance. Within the veil, the stars themselves seemed different. Some appeared unnaturally close, Their light diffused through the nebular gases. Others were swallowed entirely. Aura navigated through shimmering corridors of light, avoiding pockets of dense matter and strange energy currents that could tear a lesser ship apart. Elara watched, mesmerized, her heart thrumming with a mixture of awe and trepidation. Elara! Aura interrupted her reverie. I am detecting faint, rhythmic pulses within the veil. They are not natural stellar phenomena. Their pattern is consistent with highly complex organized data packets. The alien signal is acting as a translator, allowing me to process fragments. Can you show me? Elara leaned forward, her eyes wide. On the main holographic display, the swirling nebular gases solidified into transient, geometric patterns. They pulsed in time with the rhythmic energy Elara felt, like a cosmic heart beating. Aura began to project symbols, intricate glyphs that shimmered with internal light, forming fleeting sentences. It's a language, Aura stated, a note of wonder in her own synthesized voice. A language woven from light and energy. It describes a history, a journey, and a meeting place. Elara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. A meeting place? Whose history, Aura? Whose journey? The message appears to be a record of a civilization that transcended physical form, becoming one with the energies of the cosmos. It describes a great dispersion, a time when they spread their consciousness across the universe, seeding knowledge and connection. This nebula, the Whispering Veil, is described as a nexus of echoes, a place where their ancient consciousness lingers, guiding those who are ready to listen. Elara pressed her hand against the shimmering glyphs. This was beyond anything she could have imagined. She wasn't just following a beacon. She was walking into a living memory, a cosmic archive. The loneliness that had sometimes pricked at her dissolved, replaced by a profound sense of companionship, of ancient presences watching, perhaps even welcoming. Days bled into weeks within the Whispering Veil. Elara learned to interpret the nebula's language through Aura, piecing together fragments of the alien civilization's story. They were called the Lumina, beings of pure energy and thought who had once inhabited worlds like Earth, but had chosen a path of transcendence, merging with the very fabric of the cosmos. They left behind these nexus of echoes as waypoints, as libraries, as invitations. The Lumina's message spoke of balance, of interconnectedness, of a universe teeming with life in myriad forms. It wasn't a warning or a demand. It was a gentle offering of knowledge, a hand extended across the vastness of space and time. Elara felt a deep peace settling over her. The vast, silent dark no longer felt empty. It felt full, brimming with possibility, with a promise of connection. One day, as the Stardust Dreamer drifted deeper into a particularly dense, shimmering region of the veil, the Lumina message shifted again. The geometric patterns on her display coalesced into a single breathtaking image, a spiral galaxy, not unlike the Milky Way, but with one of its outer arms highlighted, almost glowing. And within that arm, a single magnificent star, unlike any Elara had ever seen. It radiated not just light, but a vibrant, pulsating energy, like a cosmic heart. Elara, Aura said, her voice laced with awe. The message is now a direct navigational beacon. It's pointing to a specific location. The coordinates are embedded within this stellar image. It is the heart of the Lumina, a place of profound significance. Elara stared at the image, her breath catching in her throat. This was it. The culmination of her journey, or at least, the next great step. Haro. The star pulsed. A silent invitation. A promise of revelation. She felt a surge of adrenaline, mixed with a deep, quiet reverence. Prepare to exit the veil, Aura, Elara commanded, her voice firm. Set a course for the heart of the Lumina. Maximum warp, but maintain stealth protocols. We don't know what else might be out there. Acknowledged. Calculating optimal exit vector from the nexus of echoes. The journey will be long, Elara. But the path is now clear. As the Stardust Dreamer began its slow ascent out of the Whispering Veil, the vibrant colors and swirling energies slowly receded, replaced by the familiar, yet now infinitely more meaningful, canvas of distant stars. Elara looked back one last time at the shimmering nebula, a silent farewell to the ancient whispers of the Lumina. She carried their story with her now, etched not just in Aura's databanks, but in her own heart. The journey from the Whispering Vale to the heart of the Lumina was the longest leg of her adventure yet. The Stardust Dreamer flew through countless light years, Ilara and Aura becoming a single harmonious unit, navigating the vast emptiness. Ilara spent her time studying the fragments of Lumina language. Aura continued to translate, learning about their philosophy, their art, their understanding of the universe. She learned that the Lumina believed in a universal consciousness, a tapestry of thought and energy that connected all living things, from the smallest microbe to the grandest galaxy. They had embraced this connection, shedding their physical forms to become part of it. The target star system was unlike any other she had ever charted. As the Stardust Dreamer approached the outer reaches of the galactic arm highlighted by the Lumina, Aura began to detect unusual phenomena. The very fabric of space seemed to hum with an underlying energy. Distant nebulae glowed with unnatural brilliance, and entire clusters of stars seemed to orbit around an invisible center, creating breathtaking cosmic dances. Ilara, I am detecting a peculiar shift in gravitational fields, Aura reported one cycle. It's subtle, but persistent. The stars in this region are behaving cooperatively. They seem to be forming a deliberate pattern. Ilara activated the long-range telescopic array. What she saw made her gasp. The stars were indeed arranged in an impossible formation. Not a random scattering, nor a simple cluster, but a vast, intricate mandala woven from starlight. Each star, a tiny jewel, held its place in a colossal cosmic design, radiating light and energy in a synchronized rhythm. At the very heart of this stellar artwork pulsed the target star, the heart of the Lumina. It was not a star-like soul, or even a supergiant. It was a kaleidoscope of pure energy, constantly shifting in color and intensity, radiating a light that felt both ancient and eternally new. It pulsed with a deep, resonant rhythm that was somehow familiar, like the hum of the Whispering Vale, but infinitely more powerful. It wasn't just light and heat. It was information, energy, and something profoundly alive. My sensors indicate a stable energy field surrounding the heart, Aura informed her. It's not a planetary system, Ilara. There are no gas giants or terrestrial worlds. Only this. Ilara brought the Stardust Dreamer closer, her hands trembling slightly on the controls. The star mandala expanded before her, revealing breathtaking details. Streaks of nebular dust, illuminated by the heart, painted trails of cosmic paint across the stellar design. Aura zoomed in on the central star, and Ilara saw something even more astounding. The heart of the Lumina was not a single star, but a swirling vortex of light, within which faint, intricate patterns moved. They were not sunspots or flares. They were structures. Not solid metallic structures, but constructs of pure energy, shimmering and shifting, weaving through the star's core like living architecture. They pulsed with the same intricate language she had learned in the Whispering Vale, only now, it was amplified 1,000-fold. These are not natural phenomena, Ilara whispered, captivated. Aura, are those cities? Within the star itself? Not cities as we understand them, Ilara. They appear to be highly complex energy matrices. The Lumina message suggests this is their ultimate form, their convergence point, a place where individual consciousnesses merge into a greater whole, radiating knowledge and life throughout the universe. The Stardust Dreamer hovered at the edge of this incredible system, a tiny mote of human ingenuity against a backdrop of cosmic transcendence. Ilara felt a profound sense of humility, and an even deeper sense of wonder. She had traveled light years, crossed unimaginable distances, and now, before her, lay a testament to life's boundless potential. The Lumina had not just survived, they had evolved beyond all human comprehension, transforming themselves into living starlight. As Ilara watched the heart of the Lumina pulse and shift, a new, incredibly powerful wave of the alien message washed over the Stardust Dreamer. It wasn't just data anymore, it was a sensation, a feeling of immense peace, profound wisdom, and an undeniable welcome. It felt like a gentle hand reaching out across the void, not to grasp, but to embrace. Ilara. Aura's voice was softer now, almost reverent. The message is now an invitation. A direct invitation. It is asking if you are ready to connect, to understand, to experience. Elara looked from the shimmering energy structures within the star to her own reflection in the viewport. Her face was smudged with fatigue, her eyes wide with awe, but there was an unshakable resolve in their depths. She had come all this way, faced the loneliness of the void, deciphered ancient languages, and navigated impossible nebulae. She wouldn't turn back now. "Aura," Elara said, her voice steady. "Prepare the ship for close approach. Open all communication channels. And tell them, I'm ready." The Stardust Dreamer began to move, slowly, deliberately, towards the pulsating heart of the star mandala. The light grew brighter, the energy more palpable, wrapping around the ship like a warm embrace. Elara didn't know what connection truly meant in this context, or what experience awaited her. But she knew with every fiber of her being that she was about to step across a threshold into a new understanding of the universe, and perhaps of herself. The stars had spoken, and Elara was about to answer in person, guided not just by a message, but by the very light of a living star. The light grew brighter, the energy more palpable, wrapping around the ship like a warm embrace. Elara didn't know what connection truly meant in this context, or what experience awaited her. But she knew, with every fiber of her being, that she was about to step across a threshold into a new understanding of the universe, and perhaps of herself. The stars had spoken, and Elara was about to answer in person, guided not just by a message, but by the very light of a living star. The ship, the Stardust Weaver, hummed a final gentle thrum. It wasn't a mechanical sound but a resonant frequency, a sympathetic chord struck in response to the star's immense presence. The star mandala pulsed, no longer just a projection on the view screen, but a living, breathing architecture of pure light, extending outwards from the star itself, engulfing Elara's vessel. She didn't feel a jolt, or a sudden change in pressure. Instead, it was like dissolving. Her physical senses began to unravel. The cool touch of the console beneath her fingers became a symphony of data. The faint scent of recycled air transformed into the subtle aroma of stellar dust and nascent elements. Her sight didn't just see light, it became light, perceiving the universe not as distinct points of illumination, but as a continuous flowing tapestry of energy. The ship itself seemed to melt away, not destroyed, but integrated. Its molecular structure, its energy matrix, its very purpose, merged with the star mandala. Elara found herself no longer inside a vessel, but a party of the connection. Her consciousness expanded, stretching beyond the confines of her skull, beyond the boundaries of her human form. She was a point of awareness, floating in an ocean of pure, intelligent light. This was the connection. It wasn't a broadcast, or a telepathic message. It was an immersion. The star, which she now perceived as a vast, benevolent mind, communicated not in words, but in torrents of pure concept, in waves of emotion so profound, they threatened to drown her, yet held her afloat with an unwavering gentleness. She felt its immense age, its patient observation of countless eons. She felt its joy in creation, its sorrow in destruction, its quiet wonder at the unfolding tapestry of existence. Memories, not of the star's own life, but of the universe it had witnessed, began to flow into her. She saw nebulae not as clouds of gas, but as vibrant, dreaming minds, slowly coalescing thought into matter. She experienced the birth of galaxies, the majestic dance of gravitational forces weaving cosmic threads into glittering spirals. She felt the silent crushing power of black holes, not as devourers, but as cosmic recyclers, gateways to other dimensions of being, folding space and time into intricate knots. Elara was a passenger on a journey through cosmic time, a fleeting spark experiencing the eternal. She saw civilizations rise and fall on distant worlds, their echoes imprinted on the starlight that reached this ancient sun. She witnessed alien minds, their forms bizarre and beautiful, grappling with questions of purpose and meaning, much like her own species. She understood, with a clarity that transcended language, that life was not an anomaly, but an inherent property of the universe, manifesting in an infinite spectrum of forms and intelligences. The star wasn't just eliving, it was a library, a sentinel, a consciousness woven from the very fabric of space-time. Its core was not merely fusion, but a nexus of universal information, a heart beating with cosmic knowledge. A particular thread of information began to distinguish itself from the general cosmic flow. It was a question, an ancient query, etched into the very light that had guided her. The star, this immense patient being, felt a profound loneliness. Not a human loneliness of isolation, but a cosmic solitude. It was one of the elder stars, an ancient consciousness that had witnessed the universe's infancy, seen the first light, felt the first stirrings of complex life. It had learned, observed, and accumulated an unimaginable wealth of knowledge. But knowledge, Elara now understood, could be a burden without sharing. The star desired connection, not just to observe, but to exchange. It sought a different perspective, a fresh voice in the cosmic choir. It had reached out to many, across countless light years, but few had answered, or perhaps, few had possessed the unique blend of curiosity, courage and empathy to truly connect. Humanity, with its brief, turbulent history, its fierce individuality, its capacity for both immense cruelty and boundless love, represented a unique perspective. We were the new song, the unpredictable note in the cosmic symphony. The star wasn't asking for help in a physical sense. It was asking for understanding, for a bridge between vastly different forms of intelligence. This realization brought with it a wave of profound humility. Elara, a single human, felt the weight of this cosmic request. Could humanity, truly answer such a call? We were so small, so young, so often lost in our own trivial conflicts. Yet, the star's embrace remained warm, non-judgmental, filled with an unwavering hope. It saw potential, a spark within humanity that resonated with its own ancient light. The connection deepened further. Elara was shown the Star Weaver. Not her ship, but the universal principle. It was the intricate network of consciousness that connected all living things, all stars, all galaxies. It was the unseen threads of empathy, curiosity, and shared existence that bound the cosmos together. The star mandala was not just a symbol, but a diagram of this universal web, a map of the Star Weaver itself. She saw that the universe wasn't just expanding outward, it was also growing inward, weaving itself into increasingly complex patterns of awareness. And humanity, in its nascent stages of interstellar travel and cosmic awareness, was just beginning to learn how to actively weave. But there was also a shadow, a subtle tremor in the star's vast consciousness. It was not a threat, but a deep concern. The universe, in its endless cycles, faced moments of delicate balance, where the threads of the Star Weaver could fray. There were forces of entropy, not malevolent but simply indifferent, that sought to unravel complexity, to return all to the undifferentiated void. The elder stars, in their wisdom, knew that active, conscious weaving was necessary to maintain the vibrancy and diversity of the cosmos. The star wasn't asking Elara to fight entropy. It was asking her, asking humanity, to remember the weave. To remember that every action, every thought, every connection, however small, contributed to the cosmic tapestry. To understand that isolation was an illusion, and that true strength lay in interconnectedness. Elara felt her own memories, her own emotions, merge with this vast intelligence. Her moments of wonder at the night sky, her quiet joy in solving a complex problem, her yearning for connection with others, all resonated with the star's ancient longing. She offered her own human perspective, her species' drive to explore, to innovate, to tell stories, to build bridges where none existed. She shared humanity's fledgling understanding of compassion, its capacity for self-sacrifice, its persistent dreams of a better future. And the star listened. Not with its ears, for it had none, but with its entire being. It absorbed her essence, understanding the nuances of her species' struggle and triumph. It felt the warmth of her individual spirit, the unique pattern she brought to the universal weave. The culmination of the connection was not a spoken command or a prophetic vision, but a profound sense of shared purpose. Elara realized she hadn't been chosen to receive a message but to become one. To embody the understanding that the universe was alive, intelligent, and deeply interconnected. To carry the knowledge that humanity was not just a speck of dust, but a vital, unique thread in the grand Star Weaver. Slowly, Gently, the experience began to recede. The torrent of information softened into a gentle flow. The expanded consciousness began to contract, pulling back towards the familiar anchor of her own being. The star mandala, which had been everywhere, began to define itself again, shimmering as pure light around a central point. The sensation of dissolving reversed. Her physical senses coalesced. The cool touch of the console, the subtle scent of recycled air, the hum of the ship, they all returned, but imbued with a new depth, a new resonance. She was back in the cockpit of the Stardust Weaver, her hands resting on the controls, her eyes open, staring at the star. But the star was different now. It was still a radiant point of light, but to Alara, it was so much more. She saw the intricate patterns of its energy field, felt the echo of its consciousness, understood its ancient, patient gaze. The star mandala was no longer just a light projection. It was imprinted on her mind, a permanent celestial compass. She looked around the cockpit. The Stardust Weaver was unchanged, yet everything felt new. The polished metal, the blinking lights, the familiar scent of her home among the stars, all seemed to hum with a newfound vibrancy, a quiet intelligence. Her ship hadn't just taken her to the connection. It had been an integral part of it, a vessel for merging, a conduit for understanding. Alara felt a gentle fatigue, but it was a deep, satisfying weariness, like waking from a long, profound dream that had reshaped the very landscape of her soul. She reached out, her fingers brushing the console, and felt the faint, distant thrum of the Star Weaver, a universal pulse that she now recognized as her own heartbeat. She knew she couldn't explain everything she had experienced in words. It was too vast, too fundamental, too intertwined with the very essence of being. But she carried it within her. She carried the star's loneliness, its hope, its vast, patient wisdom. And she carried the renewed understanding of humanity's place in the cosmos, not as conquerors or mere observers, but as weavers, as dreamers, as a new note in the ancient symphony. Alara leaned back in her chair, a soft smile gracing her lips. The journey hadn't ended. It had just begun. Her mission wasn't to deliver a message but to elevate one, to carry the spark of connection back to humanity, to remind them of the Star Weaver, and to encourage them to reach out, not just to the stars, but to each other. The Stardust Weaver drifted in the silent expanse, bathed in the gentle glow of the star mandala, which now seemed to pulse in harmony with Alara's own heart. She closed her eyes, not to sleep, but to savor the lingering echoes of the cosmic embrace. The universe was no longer just a collection of distant lights. It was a living, breathing entity, and she was a part of it, a conscious thread in its magnificent, endless weave. And as she drifted, a profound peace settled over her. The stars were no longer just distant points of light. They were family. The universe was no longer a cold, indifferent void. It was a warm, welcoming home. And Alara, the lone explorer, was no longer alone. She was connected, forever and always, to the living heart of the cosmos. All she had to do now was remember to weave. And with that thought, a gentle sleep, filled with starlight dreams, finally claimed her. The Star Weaver would guide her, always.